Hello, everybody, and welcome to the All Aboard podcast. This week is going to be a little bit special because of a thunderstorm that is rolling through the area, which is unappreciated by me and my normal co-host Titus. So this week we're met with his older brother that actually has Discord on his phone. Yes, we're recording from Discord. Everybody, please welcome Asa.
Hello, today my ensemble is made out of nerdy facts, philosophy, and other fun things.
I accept that. And this week we're joined with a little bit of an oddball crew. Some people that have not been introduced yet. Starting, we have Asa and Tessa's kind of cousin, Mathias.
Hello, I'm only related by marriage, so it wouldn't be weird if things happened.
That's what you like to hear. And the final guest with us this week is Mathias' friend they just randomly called up to come join whenever we figured out that Titus couldn't be here. Please, everybody, introduce Josh.
Hello, I'm Josh, world famous, world renowned celebrity. You definitely know me. I was just called in last second, so here I am. I'm
Very true.
Friend of Mathias. So yeah.
We're glad to have you, Josh.
Whenever I say I don't have anything up my sleeve, I'm lying, and I actually have Joshua up my sleeve.
I am the wild card right here.
You know, we can all appreciate a wild card in our lives, can't we?
The best wild cards are the ones you don't recognize.
Very true. And before we recorded, Mathias said he had something to talk about. Would you like to share with us?
Oh, yes, actually. So, are any of us familiar with the pop singer Halsey?
Can't say I've heard of him.
I've heard the name, but I haven't heard the music.
Okay, she's fairly popular. You don't have to hear her music to know what this is, though. So earlier this year, she released an album, and Pitchfork gave it a 6.5, and she got really mad. And so she said, "Can the basement that they run Pitchfork out of just collapse already?" She had to apologize because she didn't realize that Pitchfork is run out of the World Trade Center.
That is horrible.
Wow.
Imagine not having that kind of foresight.
You know, thinking somebody who works in the music industry, you'd think that she would, have some knowledge of some events and some locations of some big places. Huh?
The phrasing, though, the phrasing is the worst part.
That's very unfortunate.
It really is. I feel that.
They gave her a positive score too. Like, Jesus.
What did they say?
Yeah.
They basically just said it was an improvement on her previous stuff, but it still wasn't. Pitchfork is they're snobs. They only like stuff if it sounds horrible, and they can call it artful.
Oh yeah.
So. So, her stuff is supposed to be played on the radio. So, of course, they're not going to give it a 10.
Mm-hmm. That's really unfortunate to hear that sequence of events. And,
but
in a dark sense, Mathias, that kind of reminds me of a topic that I wanted to bring up this week, a fun little chat that we all have. I don't want any giggles from anybody, but does anybody have any near-death experiences that they can share?
No.
I have one.
Do you, Asa?
Yes.
Please do share.
So, the story is I was bit by a black widow spider, which is if not the most venomous spider in the United States, is the second most. This occurrence happened because it was a warmish spring day, and so we were taking a bike ride. And we were deciding to just kind of explore the area in our neighborhood that was under construction.
Yeah.
So we were just kind of riding around, and I found a glove on the ground that belonged to my friend because he lost it the previous winter. And I recognized it because I'm like, hey, he lost that. So me and my 7-year-old wisdom decided the best course of action is to put this glove that's been on the ground for several months onto my hand and ride home with it like
Yeah.
that. So, upon putting it, I feel a sharp prick on the inside of my finger. Like, ouch, that hurts. There must be a thorn.
Yeah.
I look inside, don't see anything, just a bit of web. So I just move the web away, stick my hand back in, feel the pinch again, and go like, ouch, that hurts. That's weird. Oh well.
Huh.
So I ride back to our house. About halfway there, which, just to let you know, it's not even a 10-minute bike ride. About halfway there, I start getting this aching pain creeping up my arm.
Huh.
I go to my mom and say, like, my arm and my shoulder really hurt, Mama. Can I get an ice pack? And she goes, no, honey, ice packs are only for emergencies.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Later that night, I am rushed to the ER as I have like complete upper body pain and almost cramp-like symptoms and kind of like just general sickness and weariness. So I get there. We sit there for a while. I'm just like kind of out of it because I have spider venom pulsing in my nervous system. They give me this medicine. It's supposed to make me better. So they wheel me home. I'm still a bit loopy from the spider venom. So as like they're wheeling me out of the hospital because my legs are too tired to walk, I start freaking out because I think I'm paralyzed now. And so they're having like calm me down as I'm like screaming in the ER room as they're wheeling me out. But then later that evening, I had an anaphylactic reaction to the medicine they gave me. Yes. The next, I think 3 days are pretty hazy. All I remember is one friend coming in to see how I'm doing and hearing a bunch of people in the house.
Yeah.
And then I wake up in the children's hospital several cities away.
Wow.
Yes. Like I wake up with like the IV in my arm and like the whole like, oh, you've been in a coma for several years kind of like feeling. And I'm like, and then I just go about my day because I'm a 7-year-old and I don't care.
Yeah.
I did, however, it was either when I had the IV removed or I had to get blood drawn before I left. I don't remember which situation it was. But nevertheless, when it happened, I kicked the nurse in the shins. And my mom made me write an apology letter to the poor woman just doing her job.
You can't just say, I'm sorry. You have to say it on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
To be fair, I got home, and then my mom was like, you're writing that woman an apology letter.
Yeah.
And then we got a fancy card and envelope.
Well, at least it was fancy.
Fancy.
Yes. I did get a McDonald's gift card out of it because the hospital, they just gave me the Keflex medicine that I'm allergic to and then just sent me home. They didn't like keep me overnight or anything. They're just like, yeah, take this, you'll be fine.
And then
So to make it up to me, they gave me a $10 McDonald's card.
You know what? You're 7. That equates to like a brand new Xbox or something.
Yeah, they talked to my mom saying like, what can we do to make this right? And she's like, I don't care what you do, just make it right with my little boy who's a 7-year-old. And so that was their option. And I got a snack wrap and a large fry from them.
Nice. Josh, do you have any near-death experiences?
I actually do have I think I have 2. I'll just say one. My dad used to own a like little small plot of just a couple of miles from our house, and he owned like 2 or 3 horses. I don't know why. I don't know why he decided that he wanted horses. That's how my dad is. He'll suddenly have a phase. Oh, I'm gonna buy 3 motorbikes and we're gonna go mud bogging every week.
Right.
And then he sold those, and then he bought a boat, and then he sold that, and then he bought an RV, and now it's in storage, and he never uses it. It's just, that kind of person, impulse buy.
Needs a new toy.
He had that little plot of land. At the same time, we had a 4-wheeler. We had a 4-wheeler. So he would drive us all, me, my sisters, and my dad's best friend's daughters out to that little plot of land, maybe an acre or two, and we just ride around on the four-wheeler.
Yeah.
So one day, they were deciding. My sisters, they used to be total jerks to me. They bullied me all the time. I'm the only boy in my family. I was the youngest, which doesn't help. So we like rode out like pretty far, and then they told me, "Hey, you're gonna have to walk back, Joshua." And I was like, "Ugh." So I had to walk all the way back. And I was about like, I was right next to where the stables were actually, and there's a stray dog, like sort of nearby that they usually stayed. I didn't think of it. I was just walking, and suddenly it ran up to me and started attacking me without any warning, without any reason. How old were you? So that I was, I'd say I was about 10, maybe 11.
And how big was the dog?
It was just like a normal size,
like a medium,
about the size. Yeah, medium sized
like a golden
dog.
Retriever.
About the size of a golden retriever. I can't remember what kind of dog it was. I'm really awful with dog species.
Yeah.
Can recite.
Don't worry, I'm not that good either.
Anyway.
It's okay. I don't think dogs even know their own species. They're just like hi wolves.
Oh yeah. But anyways, it ran up to me and latched to my arm. And I just didn't know what to do, so I started screaming for my dad. Dad, help!
Yeah.
And he came up, ran up to it with a big old like stick that he like grabbed nearby, started thwacking at it, and it took them about like 1 whole minute for them to get it off
me.
So I had to I didn't really go to the hospital, but still, it was like I had a bunch of scars. I had a lot of bite marks all over me. And it was pretty crazy.
And
so yeah,
did you get like a rabies shot after this, or was it not foaming?
No, no, I didn't get any rabies shot. My dad didn't bother.
Your dad was confident.
I was, yeah. Now that I think about that, that's kind of messed up.
Yeah, your dad was like, whatever. We'll give him the shot whenever he's foaming.
Well, the thing was, it turns out that stray dog had laid puppies nearby. It had puppies nearby. So it turns out it thought somehow that I was in its territory and it had puppies. So it felt the need to go ahead and attack me.
Well, that is a pretty near-death experience. I would say that's pretty scary. You know,
definitely really scary.
Same thing with getting bit by Asa. Was it confirmed a black widow, or was it just like spider bite?
They assumed just black widow by the venom symptoms. They had like a person come after I was in the children's hospital.
Do you have any? Did you rot any flesh off, or were you quick enough about it?
The rotting of the flesh is.
Oh, is it? I apologize. I'm not too smart on my venoms. I don't study venoms.
The fiddleback it affects the skin and muscular system more, whereas black widow is the nervous system.
Yeah, I don't spend my evenings looking up venoms. I think I would be on some sort of watch list, but you know.
Most people assume after they hear that story that I would be like very fearful of spiders now, but now I kind of like a kinship with them, where it's like, I see you, bro, and I just like will pick them up and take them outside instead of like squashing them or using a cup.
Yeah.
Basically, if it's not a wolf spider, I'll usually go pick it up, or a tarantula.
Yeah.
Hate wolf spiders.
Mathias, you haven't shared your any near-death experiences yet. Do you have any?
Picture an 8-year-old Mathias.
All right.
In a moving van on the highway. This young boy, not knowing anything of the world, decides he's tired of being cooped up in this van. He's been in this van for roughly 5 hours and decides he wants some fresh air. The windows don't roll down, so he unbuckles himself, walks over to the side, and you know these minivans, so the door slides back. Yeah, I did that. It was automatic. So I pressed the button, it came out, and I start looking out. My mom loses her mind, starts screaming, "You little shit!" they come to a screeching halt, pull over to the side, and come back there and like put a lock on my seatbelt.
Crazy.
Or whatever.
Wow.
They're like, I'd like to see you try and kill yourself now.
I'm glad you didn't decide you needed more by jumping out.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I wanted to.
Oh, did you?
Not because I wanted to die, just because I was tired of the car.
That's fair, do a roll. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Going 80 down the highway, you'll just do a roll.
Wow.
Do a
That's-
barrel roll.
Mathias has skin of steel.
Oh, yeah.
I think he'd survive.
Speaking of a car death, I have a few near-death experiences, but one that I find I am the most guilty of, and that I think my mother still resents me to this day of, is one day I was going to go to school. I was in the elementary area. I think it was probably like first grade, right? We were in the car. I had my backpack. I was sitting in the front seat because, guff. And my mom, she like turned the car on and we were getting ready to go. But before she could start reversing, I was like, Mom, I'm hungry. She was like, all right. And she went inside. She microwaved some pizza for me. And I was like, you know what? I'm not hungry anymore. And to add to that, I think she's being a little bit slow. I think I'm going to drive myself to school. So what came next was me clambering over the clutch and setting my bag, not putting on my seatbelt because I'm a cool kid. Don't put on your seatbelt whenever you're driving or in the car, kids. Just do it. And and don't drive whenever you don't know how to. But I was a dumb kid, so I didn't take that lesson to heart until this moment, which my mom, bless her heart, she thought she was being a nice, interactful mom, but what she was doing, she was feeding a demon. Because, whenever we're, out and about and I'm driving with her, she'd be like, all right, now put the car in reverse, and I'll do it for her, and she taught me how to work the clutch. So I was like,
Oh, no.
I know how to do this. And so I pressed the brake, I put the car in reverse, and I started reversing. And this is a downward hill, right? It's like a small decline, right? So I was slowly just going down, and I was like, there are 2 pedals. I thought there was only one. Because, I was used to playing like GTA and stuff like that, where, you just press like 1 or 2 buttons. And I thought that with the clutch, there's like a brake option. I wasn't a smart kid. So I was like, I don't know how to stop. And then I was reversing, and I wasn't looking around me. I was just kind of looking in front of me, like looking around, waiting to reverse. And then my mom comes out. Thankfully, at just the right time, she walks out, her eyes just bulge wide open. She's like, oh my gosh. She runs around, quickly opens the door, and quickly presses on the brake. Right as, like, this big SUV drives on by.
Wow.
So I could have very well just been T-boned as a 6-year-old by a big old SUV, and life would have been bye-bye.
Damn.
I got my pizza in the end, though, so that was kind of cool, yeah.
Well, you still got the pizza.
Got the pizza, and she wasn't. I didn't even get grounded.
Wow.
I don't know if that was like me being like a little privileged snot, or if she was just like thankful that I'm not dead and her car isn't dead.
Well, I'll tell you,
it's
it's because of those darn video games.
You know what? I thought I knew how to drive a car because of those darn video games. So there is some truth to that.
A little bit.
Just a tiny bit. It wasn't to the point of me being like, oh, I can do anything because of video games. It was to the point where, like, I know how to steer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For years, I thought I could easily, hack the system by doing the Konami code and just start robbing banks.
Yeah.
But then I tried it. The guy tackled me right away.
Yeah. Unfortunately. I found, Asa, there's a great way to get free money, and people are all just all right with it. You just have to be a little bit quick, and you have to get a car ready. You all you have to do is get like a mask. Can be any sort of mask. There's something that kind of hides your face. Then get like a gun. You know, hold it up and just say, "Hey, I would like some money, please." And they'll treat it like a card, and they'll just give you free money. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's how. It's a funny collectible game.
Yeah.
It was inspired by Yu-Gi-Oh.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I love Yu-Gi-Oh. Anyways, is there any more near-death stories that anybody would like to share?
I guess I can share my other one. I only have one other one.
Ooh, another one. Let's hear it, Josh.
All right. Well, like I said, my dad sort of is the type of person to impulse buy. So one year he decided, oh, I'm gonna buy a really cheap boat off of Craigslist. A really cheap boat. It was just a small little fishing boat, a little motorboat. So one day he decides, hey, we're gonna have a little bit of lake time. Him, like our whole family and his best friend Adam's family. We all went out. Adam had his separate boat for his family, and my dad had his boat for our family. So we went out and we were just riding around. The waves were really rough that day. Really rough. I was sort of in the front part of the boat. There was like seats in the front part of the boat, like the little like nose of it. And I was bouncing up off the boat like 1 foot at like every wave. So I went over to my stepmom and sort of like went over because I was scared. It was really scary. After about 30 minutes when we were out in the water, my dad sort of like is like, hang on. How's this much water getting in the boat? Turns out that the boat was slowly filling with water. This cheap boat that my dad found on Craigslist was a total ripoff. There was like a little small hole. So the boat started filling with water. We were slowly sinking. I was bawling my eyes out because I was scared to death. I've always been and always will be a little wimp. Was a little scaredy cat.
We all have a little bit of scaredy cat in
bawling
us.
my eyes out. So we floated in the water for like 5 minutes. Luckily, my dad's friend was there. So he was able to drive by and pick us up. And that whole day, I was so upset. And you know what the worst part of that was? I had my wallet with me, and I lost $3.
A whole $3.
And how old were you?
What a shame. I was about also around 13, 12.
$3 is a lot of money at that age. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh yeah, you can buy 1 bag of chips.
3 Hot Wheels.
Oh yeah,
Think
Hot
about
Wheels.
how many
Yeah,
G.I. Joes you can buy with
probably.
$3.
How many double bubble gums you can get?
You can have all your friends at school
7-Eleven.
ask you for gum, even though you've never met them before.
Oh yeah. Coolest kid in school got that whenever they used to have a mint chocolate chip flavored
yeah,
gum.
that was great. That was great. Do they not do that anymore? I'm thoroughly surprised because that was a bomb.
You can still get it.
My favorite ice cream is mint chocolate chip, and whenever I saw that in gum form, I was like, these people are gonna make bank. And
Trey, you were my new favorite person. Mint chocolate
thank
chip.
you.
Isn't chocolate chip mint gum just like junior mints with extra steps?
Probably.
Yeah, advanced.
But they knew what they were doing. And you know what?
Yeah.
It was great. I loved it.
Oh yeah, it tasted exactly like mint chocolate chip.
Gum usually doesn't taste like what it's supposed to taste like, unless it's like spearmint or something. But that tasted great, honestly.
Oh, on the topic of gum, did you guys ever get Hubba Bubba Yikes?
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
I could never figure out the difference between Yikes and their normal gum. It tasted exactly the same to me. Was it just that it was in the stick form instead of like the little ball?
Probably, yeah.
Most likely.
That it always irked me because I always thought it was gonna be like spicy or something, and it's like it's just normal gum.
Most of it is like rebranding of the mystery. I wonder how much different it is, and then you buy it, and then you're like, well, I already took one and chewed it. I can't really return it, can I?
Oh yeah.
So but hey, Asa, in the end, they still got the money off of you. So
Yeah.
earlier, Asa said that it's like a game where you could, where he thought everything was like a game, that everything was gonna be easy, like inputting a Konami code to get some money out of things. Which reminded me at the time of a topic that I was also going to bring up this week of something that can resonate with a lot of people. Favorite video games. Do you guys have any?
Ooh.
Oh.
Several.
I'm a basic bitch.
Mathias, let's hear it, buddy.
Last of Us.
Oh, baby.
Ooh. My sweet summer child.
Whenever this is a little bit of a hot opinion, but whenever I played it, I was underwhelmed because everybody was hamming up.
That's fair.
And I played it, I was like, you know what? I was expecting 50 times more.
I think go ahead.
I was going to just say, Trey, typically you are underwhelmed with most things, so.
I don't know what you're commenting on.
You're really whelmed.
I don't know what you're commenting on, because I have many personality traits that could make me underwhelmed by everything.
Yeah. I'm talking about all of them.
So rude. But
yeah, I have no room to judge Mathias. I have no room because my favorite game is like probably the lamest of them all. Skate 3. Baby. Skate 3. It's my favorite game of all time.
You know what?
But it's a good game.
It's certainly
my jam.
A good game.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. But with a lot of things, I think if you overhype something to the extreme, like, I don't know, there's plenty of examples out there, like Last of Us. Whenever I heard about it, I thought it was going to look like as good as something, not necessarily as good as Skyrim, because Skyrim looks good, because it came out, like 2012, I believe, around that time.
Last of Us looks way better than Skyrim.
In my opinion, it doesn't.
The Last of Us came out in 2013. Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't play through the entire game. I'm not.
How much did you play?
I played to the bit where you're sneaking into like that storage place with all the gang members. It was near the start of the game, but I just had a walking in opinion. I didn't play through it though.
Yeah. See, like, I think the thing that most people highlight with The Last of Us is, like, the gameplay is pretty good. The graphics are pretty good. They don't hold up super well, but they're pretty good. But the thing that, like, makes it so fantastic is the, like, characters that you get attached to. Like, I really like story-based games. If I were to have two favorite games that weren't, like, based on the way that they, like, affected me through story, it'd probably be either the original Mega Man or Devil May Cry 5. But the story is what gets me.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of story games too. Like, there was this game that came out earlier this year. I call it a game. A lot of people would say it's not a game because it's under the definition of a visual novel.
Detroit.
They count.
Some people say they don't count. That's why I put that in. But the whole entire your ending is dependent on what, because the game, you are an owner of a coffee shop that only opens after hours, and this is a game called Coffee Talk. Great soundtrack. I recommend looking it up on Spotify. And Coffee Talk, you are a cafe or a coffee shop owner that only opens after hours. And it's all about the weird people that come in and helping them with their problems just by serving them a drink and talking to them and calming them down. And the ending is all, how good your ending is all dependent on giving people the correct drinks. Not necessarily what they order, but what they need. And it's not my favorite game, but it is a good game that is very story heavy. Well, yeah, I recommend it. It's about $13, I believe, and it's a pretty good sized game. it lasted me like 2 days of me just playing it nonstop. So
Coffee Talk? You
yes, I
said?
did say that. It has a pixel art style.
Ooh, very
Mhm.
nice. Yeah, I definitely love story games so
Mhm.
much, but a lot of my favorite games are ones that are either visually like appealing or they're just super fun
Oh
to
yeah,
play. Those are usually my favorites. Like just like I said, Skate
yeah,
3. It's just so
Mhm.
fun to play. It's buggy as all
yeah.
hell. It's old, doesn't hold up the best visually, but
Mhm.
it's really really good.
My favorite game of all time is something that kind of falls in a gray area because a lot of people say it's a perfectly average game. But the reason why I say that it is my favorite game of all time is purely for nostalgic factor. I know that is not a good reason to have a favorite game, but every time I hear the loading music, every time I hear the end credits, every time I hear some sort of music or see something from that game that I don't expect to see or I expect to hear, but I still hear it, I get very emotional. And uh, recently, I've been doing a annual playthrough of each of my top games. Um, my favorite game of all time, Fable 2, which is the game that I'm talking about, is one of them. And
Never played it.
I don't know if I'd say recommend it because a lot of people say it's boring. The first one, especially boring. The whole entire starting sequence, I could barely get through. But Fable 2, I played as a child. You'd expect attention span to really be a thing, but I didn't really uh, have a bad attention span. I just kind of played games to have fun. And so, playing through Fable 2 and just hearing the music, even whenever like paused and just like eating like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, just hearing that music just makes me have childhood memories that I really like, and that's why Fable 2 is my favorite game, just pure nostalgia. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then Fable 3 was all right. I played that one; it was all right. I have not played the Kinect, the Xbox Kinect Fable though.
Do you want to?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
And there's also a game called
Wow.
Fable Heroes that has sort of a ragdoll style. I have that downloaded, but I have not played it yet. I don't know if there's any other games out there.
I think that it is completely and entirely valid for your favorite piece of media, whatever it may be, or even favorite food, whatever, to be your favorite because of nostalgia factor. I mean, because it's A, completely your choice, and B, it's like a completely valid reason for it to be your
I
favorite.
appreciate that, Josh.
Just because something's a favorite doesn't mean that you're saying it's the best of all time. It's just
Exactly.
personal
Like
preference.
Fable 2, easily not the best game of all time. There's a lot of bits where people are like, "Oh, this is so boring. Oh, the story isn't that great," or "Oh, the characters aren't really that great." Because the character is not the best, but they're average at best. They're pretty static though; they don't really change. And the story, it has a cool sort of overarching thing. The final sort of area is really cool, or not the final, but just like the main boss area is really cool. And the ending, some say is weak, but I just think it's an alright ending. Just overall, it's a perfectly average game that I think is amazing.
That's cool. I just want to say that my phone was about to die, and right as it was about to, the power came on.
Wow.
The save.
Pure luck.
Yeah, that's lucky. Yeah.
Asa, you've not yet shared your favorite game or favorite games, as you stated you have. So share a few.
Yes. That's why I held back because I have a pretty decent
Go
list.
ahead, Asa.
Majority of them are. I found that the games I really enjoy, either have really fun, like have like gameplay that really catches your attention and kind of pulls you in. Not necessarily like really complicated or like very well done, but just like it's got something cool to it. And then it also ties that with really good narratives.
Yeah.
So it's either that or games with simple mechanics but that have layers to it and a really good world setting.
Yeah.
So like for the first one, games like Metal Gear Solid, especially 3, love that. Love that game. Or Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Yeah.
Gameplay is really easy to pick up, but it's the story and it's got some cool different things you can do that makes it unique.
I was about to say.
But
about to say, are you gonna bring up Fire Emblem?
Of course, yes. We can't talk video games without me bringing up Fire
Very
Emblem.
true. I try, but
I'm glad it's finally getting some recognition from people, even if it's just my name.
and even if it's in Smash Bros, where every single Swords character is almost Fire Emblem or Link.
Yeah, yeah. But then with the other type of games, it would be like Skyrim or Dark Souls 2 or Monster Hunter.
Skyrim is a good choice.
Yes, it is such a good game because it just has such a good atmosphere. I will sometimes just walk around.
Yeah. That kind of brings me to one of my favorite games. I only have one favorite of things just because I had just kind of like the meaning of the word favorite means that it is the top in your opinion. And so but I have a list that I think of like going down or some of my top games. And one of my top 5, a lot of people will say, "Oh, how dare you? That's such a bad pick," or "What? That's a bad game." Or some might even agree with me. But one of my top 5 games is Oblivion, Elder Scrolls Oblivion. And a lot of people
Very valid.
are like, "Oh, it's a bad game, bad graphics." And I'm like, everybody might sound the same. The game might not have good graphics, but it was a game.
It has pretty decent graphics. It's just the innate system that makes NPCs isn't that great. But if you spend time with it, you can make pretty decent looking characters with it.
But the thing that everybody brings up is that it came out at the same time as Fallout 3. And Fallout 3 looks much better than Oblivion. I'm not going to lie. And I also love Fallout 3. But on to Oblivion. Oblivion was a rushed game. I believe it was rushed for the holidays, and that's why it's a little bit janky. There's a lot of glitches. Like, whenever you look at the textures, you can see the where they mesh together and where they didn't really mesh because they just kind of placed them, and you get to see the line in between the textures. It's a really messy game in a lot of areas. But I still love it.
You gotta remember, though, it's Bethesda, so it's not a bug, it's a feature.
And there's also that there's also that really controversial thing with Oblivion where one of the DLCs was I forget how much it was, but it was a ludicrous amount just for your horses to have like elven-esque armor that doesn't do anything. It's just a cosmetic thing. Whenever horses in that game are one of the most useless things ever, in my opinion.
Oh yeah. I definitely agree.
Yeah, like if you've played the game and if you walked around, you can get anywhere within like 5 minutes. It doesn't matter how far away it is. You just have to have patience. A horse just cuts that down.
And can't you fast travel like right out the bat?
No.
As long as you've heard of the place.
To cities. But if it's like a quest location that's out in the middle of the forest, you have to go there. You have to walk. But cities, like all major cities, like there's some villages, but major cities you can fast travel to immediately. And I think the main reason why is because the lack of things in the environment, whenever just in between those places, because there's not a lot, it's just road. Sometimes you'll find like an odd like tower or ancient ruins that are
the alien ruins.
Yeah. Which I thought that was a cool theme. But overall, that game is some would say it's below average. I think it's just another average game, maybe even above average, in my opinion.
Some would say it's below average, but I think it's actually, it's pretty average size, and it's about what you do with it.
Yeah. I mean, if a game still has people playing it, like a decade after its release, it's doing pretty good. It's a fine game.
There's just so much I love about Oblivion, because I think Oblivion took a lot more liberties than Skyrim in some ways. And I've played through both multiple times. Oblivion, my count is like 10 right now, and Skyrim is 7. because I used to speedrun Oblivion. Just because I like to do the games that I love, except for Fable 2. But Oblivion, there was just a lot more, I wouldn't say creativity, but they took a lot more chances and differences from normal stuff. And there's a lot more, like the character customization, how you customize like your class, like you really like the character customization was so specific in it. Like they had a full like list of just different character customizations, and you could make your own for like, because there's like the strength based, sneaky based, and then magic based class, and then you had all these sub attributes and then another list of attributes.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it, and that's why I really like, because instead of Skyrim where it's just like you can kind of pick stuff out here and there. Oblivion, you're like, yes, my character's good at this, 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 and this, and you like really detail it out, and you figure out what you want to do. And even if you do that, later on, if you're like, I'm not really enjoying this build that I made, I wouldn't say it doesn't matter, but it would be more beneficial to you if you pick the thing that you want to do. But like right now, I'm playing somebody who I originally built to just be heavy armor, straight heavy armor, with blunt weapons and shields, because I'm playing my annual playthrough right now. Even before this podcast, like right before this podcast, I was going through some Thief missions. But then I was like, man, I really want to do the Dark Brotherhood storyline. And so I was like, yeah, I can start sneaking around. And so I just got a bunch of magic items that will help me sneak around. It'll, like, there's a effect called Chameleon, where you can just slip it on and then you're a little bit invisible to everybody. So it's not like you make that class and then you're being kept from like everything else. You still have like magic items that can help you, and you can also like on your own you should be able to if you're just not wearing like heavy armor trying to sneak around. And that's why I just love Oblivion, is that there's so much options, and if you want to change, you can do that, and it won't punish you too badly for just wanting to have fun in the game. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I think a lot of people, the reason that they play Oblivion, as good and as great as it is, there's a lot of people that play it because of how goofy it can be at times, because of the game engine and the NPCs specifically. It can get really, really just like buggy, and a lot of funny things can happen.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's why a lot of people play it, but also because it is a very, very fun game.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And and you can also make your own spells in that one. Like in Morrowind, you can make your own spells, but in Oblivion, you have to go through the whole entire mage quest line, the Mages Guild.
Mm-hmm.
But once you do, like I made a spell that was just named Death, which basically what it did was, and like I was a top tier like magic build, like I min-maxed the shit out of it to where I was just like big magics, to where I had this spell that barely took away any of my magic meter or magicka. And it was a ranged spell. And so I just cast it, and if it lands somewhere or a person in a 20 feet radius, would just be 50 cold damage, 50 fire damage, and 50 electric damage. So, like, if I cast that, almost anybody, their health would just be like halfway gone. And it was just, or if it's like just like normal NPCs or like a normal like enemy, they would just be dead instantly. I just named it Death because it just murders, clears rooms. It's crazy.
Oh yeah.
But enough about Oblivion. Does anybody else have any other favorite games?
No, but I'm good to talk about Fire Emblem some more.
Go ahead. Let's hear about Fire Emblem.
Yeah. I haven't played a whole lot of games in the franchise. I've only played the majority of Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light, which is one of the old ones. And Three Houses. I've completed it twice. Because with the game, there's 4 separate endings of it, depending on factions you choose and such. It's probably one of my favorite story-based games.
Oh yeah.
Just because of a lot of the nuance it has, because it deals with a lot of topics of like war and growing up in positions of power and nobility and kind of what that does to someone when they're just born into immense weight and power, and what links do they go through to either shirk their duty or gain more power or do what they see as right.
Mm-hmm.
And something that's cool about it is with each playthrough, you learn more about the other groups because you're experiencing them from different angles.
Yeah.
Because like one group is led by a person who breaks off and decides that they're going to conquer the continent.
Yeah.
And so I decided to go with that person's playthrough. I don't want to say names, just kind of avoid spoilers as much as I can. But with that playthrough, you see it as kind of through their eyes as the righteous cause of trying to right the wrongs committed by the monastery and kind of the church that's running everything. Because like they rewrote history to set everything in power and create systems that oppress people based on their ability to bear magical crest. And so this person wants to destroy that system. But when you view it from other angles, you get to see that that character can very easily slip into just a state where they want to just lash out against everyone because of the trauma they felt. So it just becomes them, instead of trying to actually right wrongs. In the other playthroughs, you see what they could have become and the monster that your character helped prevent them from becoming.
Mm-hmm.
And same with the other people, because one of the other characters was a close friend of the one that betrayed everyone and tried to conquer the continent.
Mm-hmm.
So they go insane.
Yeah.
And they have a mental breakdown because someone they saw as a sibling basically stabbed them in the back.
Crazy.
And so
You're fine.
Sorry.
On the playthrough where you joined them, you help bring them out of the darkness and change them into a good leader. Whereas in the other ones, they go into madness and allow their friends to die by sending them to risky situations just to get a chance of getting their revenge.
Okay. Crazy.
Well,
So we don't have a lot of time left, but
yeah.
on the topic of just interacting with other people in that game and like strange interactions with people in Oblivion, because if you guys ever seen those videos of like the meme videos where it's just like people emulating the how people talk in Oblivion to each other.
oh
It's
yeah.
been a long time since I've seen a good brawl.
Have you ever heard of the High Elves? Goodbye. Yeah.
I was doing just fine, then I took an arrow to the knee.
All right.
Gamer
Let me
reference.
guess, someone stole your sweet
All
roll.
right.
Gamer reference.
Gamer.
Whoa.
Is that your reference?
That reminds me of the final topic I want to bring up for this week. Weird experiences with strangers, or the weirdest. Do you guys have any?
Does it count if you're the weird one
Go
in the
ahead.
situation? I'm telling this one so I can nip it in the bud so Mathias can't tell it.
Go ahead.
This takes place at a youth conference. It was like a youth leadership and young Christian training kind of thing. So I was very, very introverted at the time. I would have trouble ordering food at restaurants because I'm talking to a stranger, kind of introverted. So Mathias was trying to break me out of that shell. So he tells me, hey, I'll get you a drink. All you have to do is go up and talk to someone. And so he points out a girl who's wearing a Transformers t-shirt because at the time, I loved Transformers.
Mm-hmm.
So all
He
I could
still
do
does.
was
Don't let him
go
fool
up.
you.
What?
I said he still loves Transformers. Don't let him fool you.
Oh, yes. Well, at the time, I was obsessed
Oh,
with
yeah.
it. Now I just enjoy it. So I agree, because I just want him to stop badgering me about it, and I want a soda. So I walk up to this random girl just talking to her friends or something. I don't remember. So I just walk up, say, Autobots, roll out. Then you go, and walk away.
Oh my God. What was
God.
her? Tell me her reaction before and after saying you.
I have no clue, because I just walked up, loudly said, Autobots, and then
I was too busy
roll out.
trying to pretend I didn't know.
And then I beeline straight for Mathias.
Yeah, it was scary.
I didn't even look at her face. I just said it.
All I know is
Autobots roll out, walked away.
after that
All of a
interaction,
sudden-
I bet she was crushing on you hard, man. After that,
Oh, yeah. Dude, you
yeah,
could
it's
have
just like the
gone a
pussy
number.
just dried up.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
That's why they call it. That's why they call it Ace of Sahara.
So Asa,
Oh,
how good was it afterwards? How many numbers did you get from that?
None.
Really?
I've only been
What?
offered a number twice
And
in my entire life.
one of the times was the email story.
Yes, I am. They asked for my number, said, "Hey, I don't have one, but I can give you my mom's."
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. It's like, how about my email?
What?
Yep. Which, fun, just a little factoid. That email was a joint email between me and my siblings.
Wow. Did you talked about this last time, but you never gave us any closure on that. What was her reaction?
Dumbfounded.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you get the girl though?
No.
No.
I talked to her like a couple times after that, and then because I racked up a bunch of fines at the library, I started hiding from them so they couldn't track me down and make them pay them.
Sad.
Because I would check out like 25 books at a time, and then like by the time I finished reading them, they were all due, and I was like, whoops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So does anybody else have any weird interactions?
Oh, I definitely do.
Oh, Josh, please do tell.
Ooh.
Yeah. Whenever I was younger, my dad, he was also he's one of those kinds of dads, like, whenever I was younger, I blank, so you gotta do it. He was that way. He put me into football because whenever I was your age, I played football. You should play football.
Yeah.
I ended up doing it for like 1 year and then quitting. Don't like sports.
What position
Never
did you
got
play?
into it. It was like I can't remember. It was one of the just ones that they give to the skillless kids. I sat on the bench most of the time. Yeah, linebacker. I was a bench warmer most of the time, and I remember my dad was like one of those people where it was like, "You need to put my son on the field, or else." One of those kinds of guys. But it's not even. It doesn't have anything to do with football. He told me one day, like it was Christmas, and I unwrapped one of my gifts, and it was a skateboard. He was like, "Whenever I was your age, I knew how to skate. I knew how to do this. So I think you should start skating." So we had this very, very itty bitty, teeny tiny skate park, in quotations. It's like one very, very 1 foot tall, like quarter pipe looking thing, and a ramp, and then a rail, and then that's it. That's the quote unquote skate park. So I went there. I was there. Had my grandma drive me, and I didn't bring my skateboard that day. I think I was at the park. I was just at the park, and I decided to go over there to the skate park, quote unquote. And I saw this like teen. I can't remember how old he was. Everybody back then, whenever you're like, I was probably around 9.
Yeah.
Looks like an adult, even if they're 15. So they're
Yeah.
probably around a high schooler. They were skating around. They were doing these cool tricks. And I went up to them and I was like, hey, can I use your skateboard for a minute? And of course, I was like a little kid. They were like older, so they knew that I was just a kid. I was naive. So they're like, yeah, you go for it, I guess. And I took the skateboard and I went up to the top of the ramp and I sat down on the skateboard, rode down on the ramp, not even like full send, rode down on the ramp, like put my like shoes down and like slid down the ramp on the skateboard.
Oh yeah.
And then I got up, gave him the skateboard. I was like, okay, thank you. And I walked off. And I still to this day cringe about the thought that I did that.
So you never. I had a skateboarding phase. I remember I used to skateboard.
Oh yeah. That's sort of the reason that I like Skate 3. I still think skateboarding's rad. I just know that I don't have the skill to do it. You know?
I used to skateboard though, back in my younger years.
Oh yeah.
I forget. I think it was probably middle school. I never seemed like the skateboarding kid though, because that was at the time whenever I didn't really have a lot of friends, you know, my loner phase. But I used to skateboard.
Oh yeah.
Not amazingly, but you know, I did so.
The most I could do.
Kids want to do a skateboard.
The most I could do is ride on the board after one push for like 5 seconds before bailing out. I was never able to ollie or any of that, and I had tons of slip ups. Like I said, I've always been and always will be a wimp. So the main reason I quit is because I don't like falling. Same with football. I quitted that because I hated being tackled. So yeah, I had a little skateboard phase, and that interaction haunts me to this day. Even though I'll never see that guy again, ever.
You know what? You never know.
Never know.
You might find him in some sort of corporate area.
Might be in my 40s working in a cubicle, and then a guy walks up to my cubicle and says, "Hey, did you ask for my skateboard when you were a little kid?" And then like tells the whole office, and then I'm fired for being that embarrassing whenever I was 9.
Oh yeah. What was it? Tell me. What was his look after you gave back his skateboard? Did he just look like whatever, or was he like laughing?
It was just a blank stare of just like, okay, just like that sort of thing. I'm positive whenever I walked away, he laughed, and that's what like I'm pretty sure I occupy his mind as well.
You know what you did, Josh?
Each other's minds. What?
You made his day, and that's what's important.
Yep, I made his day.
You made a guy laugh. That's what's important. I don't have a lot of stranger stories. I was always the shy kid that didn't want to go talk to people. Even like when I was little, like I said, I didn't have a lot of friends. But in elementary school, that was even more so. To where it was at the point where me and my mom, we drove home, and you know, we were chilling, and we got out of the car, and I saw some kids playing across the street, and I was like, "Mom, can you like go ask if I can play with them?" And she was like, "Go ask yourself." I was like, "But Mom."
Oh, it's the same way.
And like we had a talk on the porch. I was like, "Never mind, I'll just go play Xbox."
Oh my god.
I was just way too. I don't know if it was embarrassed or shy, but I was something. I just didn't want to be the one to make the first move to talk to anybody.
I've never really been that shy. I've always been a pretty extroverted person, but still, it'd take me like I was the same way whenever I was younger. I'd see like a kid like next door, and I'd be like, "God, that kid's my age. He could be my friend." I'd like be pacing in my room 30 minutes, just walk over, knock on the door, say, "Hey, like the interaction would go as follows.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I saw a kid was here. Can I ask if they can play with me?" It was just
Yeah.
always like that. So I'd be hyping myself up for like 30 minutes in my room before I even did that.
Yeah.
Took so much nerve.
Yeah. I have something a little bit similar. I was so lonely as a kid that because I lived with my mother for a long time, but then whenever I moved in with my dad, just because whenever you're a kid and you don't spend a lot of time with one parent and you go to the other seems way cooler,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So I was staying with my dad. My dad realized how lonely I was because he was like, "Okay, do you want me to drive you to your friend's house today?" I was like, "What?" It's like, "You're not hanging with anybody?" I was like, "No." He's like, "Oh no." So one day, I don't know if he got on like Facebook Messenger with like the mom next door, but he knew this girl that had a kid my age. I think he was a year older. Um, and he was like, "Yeah, you're gonna meet this kid." I was like, "A kid, finally!" And like they lived across the street, and so our parents walked us out. It was kind of like getting dogs to meet each other. Like they let us look at each other through the screen doors at first, and then we got out and we and his name is let's call him Scott. And when I first met him, I said the completely wrong name. Great first impression. And so, but me and Scott, we had a nice little friendship. We were very different kids. Like he was big in sports. He played soccer. He liked Ben 10. I had never really watched any TV other than like old westerns with my grandparents. But we both like video games, and that's you know, where I got a lot of my love for video games was from that kid.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh,
from
yeah.
my uncle. And that led us to just walking down the street one day because we usually didn't leave the houses, but one day we were just walking down the street because we saw a garage sale down the road. We walked down there, and I met another friend there. Let's just call him the Siren. You know why I'm calling him that if you met him. But Siren was also a cool kid. He had a bit of quirks to him, but he was a cool kid. And we three were like big friends. Well, it was mainly me and the Siren. Scott, me and him were less friends because Scott moved away like a month after we met. Or it could have been a year. I don't know. Time's fickle whenever you're young. And then he moved away, so I didn't really see him as much. But me and Siren, we were living like a house away, so we hung out a lot. And so he was my friend for a good couple of years. He was the only person that I really knew outside of school. He didn't even go to the same school as me, but he was the only person my age that we went to the same school. We kind of grew up together. It was cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So does anybody have any closing thoughts that they want to end on? Anything they want to share before we end?
Kids, eat your vegetables.
Very true.
Don't do drugs.
Stay in
but if
school.
you do, don't be surprised if you get arrested or die.
Uh-huh.
I do have one more story of a stranger, if I can tell it real quick.
Go ahead,
Of course.
We have a few
It's
minutes.
less of he was a stranger to me. He was a strange man to everyone.
That's always nice.
This is a guy I knew while I was going to Votech to learn how to be a machinist.
Mm-hmm.
I will call him Liam. Liam was a fan of marijuana.
Mm-hmm. The devil's lettuce.
Yes, he was a big fan. So much so that he would break school rules and smoke in the bathroom. So much so, I'd never met him sober, and one of his best friends that went to Votech with us had barely ever seen him sober. He believed that he was literally Satan and the reincarnation of Hitler.
Hence the devil's lettuce.
Yes. I say literally but I'm not for sure. He was one of those people where you could never tell what was a lie, a delusion, or truth with him.
An expert gaslighter.
I
Wow.
would say accidentally, because he could just be saying a random statement and you'd be like, okay, sure thing, Liam.
Mm-hmm.
Like he could say the sky is purple and you'd be like, are you sure about that, buddy? You'd be like, I know it, I made it that way. And you could not tell. So I'm sitting here working with a high powered machine, just cutting away aluminum. And he's cutting a piece on the saw behind me. And while he's cutting, he turns to me and goes, Asa, when I restore magic to the world, what power do you want me to grant you?
Ooh. And
So
what
I
did
just
you
kind of
say?
think for a bit I could just kind of think for a bit, and as I'm taking measurements, and I turn and I go, I think I'd want the power to be able to create pocket dimensions. And he goes, wish granted.
So,
And he walked off to go work on his aluminum pipe.
Crazy.
so are you able to
Smoking
create
pipe.
pocket dimensions?
Yeah. How big is it, Asa?
I haven't tried in a while.
In a while.
Let's see.
Wow.
Nothing happened. So
Oh, darn.
not yet.
You know, maybe it's like one of those unlocked. Maybe it's like an anime potential.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that's what 2020 is. It's just him like getting the souls needed to reboot the whole system.
Wait. Everybody give me your power.
I think we
Yeah,
all
basically.
had a friend like that who would just constantly tell lies and do nothing but that.
I think that friend for a lot of people is me. Dude, Asa, do you want to go into me being the expert gaslighter of the group?
Now we can say that for a later time.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to hear that, there'll be another time. Probably next episode, maybe another. But the long story short, I've gaslit Titus and multiple other many a times to staggering results.
Oh, wow.
just for my own and some others' enjoyment. Anyways, we're gonna be ending that there. Thank you everybody who showed up. Thank you, Josh, for being here on a whim. It's been nice to meet you.
Of course. It was great to be here. And I had a blast.
Yeah. And Asa, thank you for filling in for your little brother.
Welcome.
Yeah. And yeah, this has been an episode Trey's of the All Aboard Podcast. We're doing this every Wednesday. Drop a like on SoundCloud and YouTube. And depending on where you are, either follow or subscribe, please. It would be a great help. And if you have any topics that you'd like us to talk about or touch up on, we'll surely, hopefully, say it in the podcast. It depends on the day and night. But yeah, we'll see you all later.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Don't forget to love each other.